Hey guys, what's going on? My used bookstore got a little depleted over the holiday season, so I went to some thrift stores, I went to some library book sales, and we got 100 cc's of fresh blood right here, starting with The Lost Spells, a beautiful little hardcover, and as far as I can tell, it's just a rebranding of poetry. They tell you to read it out loud, and they say it will have some kind of real-world effect, which I think is a pretty cool idea. It's very nature-based, a lot of awesome illustrations in there, a lot of positive ideas, and birds, which you know I love. And of course, danglies. Although I don't know how many danglies are going to be in this video, to be honest. Next we got World of Wonders. I have added a few books to my store based only off the cover, and I have concluded that a cover alone will not sell a book. But this is a pretty awesome cover, and it's a pretty beautiful book otherwise, so pretty confident that it will sell. Birds, once again. First two books, both bird related. Oh, and unintentional, but here we are. Hummingbird Salamander by Jeff Vandermeer. Another book that looks like it would sell based on the cover alone. This one has caught my attention every time I've gone to Barnes & Noble. I do like Jeff Vandermeer. This one might go on my TBR. I liked Annihilation a lot. Of course, the other two in the series, not so much. And I really like Born. Ooh, 5 of Diamonds. So I will probably like this one. TBR is kind of full right now, though. The Traveling Cat Chronicles. Looks like a cozy little hardcover book. The back says it has the same tenderness as a Studio Ghibli film. So, be a good one to read on a rainy day. The Dogs of War by Tchaikovsky. This one might go on my TBR as well. I'm always trying to read more modern stuff. The average publication date of all my reads in 2023, I'm gonna say is like 1983, but that would be an interesting stat to track. The Secret Commonwealth by Philip Pullman. I've had this one on my shelf for a while. It's book 2 in some series I've never heard of, and I hold on to the unrealistic expectation that I will find the other ones in the series and be able to sell it as such, but I'm coming to earth in those terms. Just going to sell that as a random one-off. Here's a couple books from a Facebook Marketplace deal I just made yesterday. I had to cut 5 books out of here to include 5 of these because I'm so excited about them, but they are old Dungeons & Dragons manuals. The guy had no idea what he had, so it was exciting to be able to offer him an amount of money that he did not expect me to offer him. And then he was looking into them like, oh wow, yeah, these are collectible. Especially the older ones here. Beautiful stuff. And they're in pretty good condition. He said they were just sitting in his basement for a long time, which always throws up some red flags, but I looked through them. Some are better condition than others. These are 5 of the, not mint condition, but better condition ones. And there's all of these tertiary stuff too, like here, Cleric's Challenge, which is just like a one-off printing. It's like 10 pages long, a little brief Dungeons & Dragons journey. Of course, they're filled with maps and such. Really beautiful stuff. And a whole stack of these, which aren't the most attention-grabbing covers that I've ever seen, but they are all worth a good deal. Never leave home without the Complete Ninja's Handbook. That's what I always say. And a lot of paraphernalia, too. Look at this. Full-size map of some city or town. Awesome stuff. Facebook Marketplace does not often deliver, but when it does, it's a treat. Here we got The Fireman by Joe Hill. I read this a long time ago. I cannot recommend it. I can recommend Horns by Joe Hill. I love that book. I ate it up, and then I gave it to my wife, who also ate it up. So I was excited to read more of this guy, but this one was such a slog for absolutely no payoff. But I did recently find Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill, and I've heard people recommend that one, so I will give him another shot. I Am Pusheen the Cat. I actually did flip through this book on a day I was feeling kind of down, and it did make me feel better, so I think that is the purpose of it. It's just this little cat doing kind of basic and cute things, and that's all it needs to be, right? Beautiful book. Sacred Nature. I've seen this one in Barnes & Noble, so of course if I see it in the thrift store, I'm going to pick it up. This one looks to be in brand new condition, so that'll make a perfect entry in my used bookstore, although I want to read more nature books. I tried Walden a long time ago as maybe my first one, and I didn't get through it, so I think it set me off on the wrong foot for these kind of books, but I do want to give them another try. But again, my TBR is kind of clogged right now. Little Weirds, attention-grabbing cover. It's about all I've got for that one. Miss Benson's Beetle, similarly beautiful cover. Apparently it was Barnes & Noble's monthly pick at one point. That's all I got for that one. To Green Angel Tower by Tad Williams, one of these fantasy behemoths that writes these massive tomes. You look at this and you think, okay, this is probably like a trilogy all in one book, which usually sell pretty well. No, this is book 3 of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. So there are 2 that I would assume are similar length. That's going in the eBay store. The Long Price Quartet. Now here we go. This makes more sense. This is 4 books in one. And it looks like it. These always sell well when there's multiple books in the same one. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. You know, it's always hard to photograph books with the shiny stuff on them, because you can either get like a good shot of the book or you can get a good shot of the shiny parts. Haven't been able to figure out that yet. This is another one that would make a beautiful gift book, I think. James and the Giant Peach. Now we're getting into the glass case books. These are some rare finds, ones that are worth more than your average book. This one, unfortunately, someone stuck their coffee cup on it at some point, but it's a first edition, or at least an early edition, of James and the Giant Peach. I forget exactly how much I saw that it was worth, but it is just a nice edition regardless. Definitely has a vintage feel. Looks like it's been well loved and used as a coaster too, unfortunately. The Martian by Andy Weir, which is a book that you would not associate with being very valuable, but for whatever reason I saw this on the shelf, the spine I saw on the shelf, and the publisher there, it didn't look familiar to me, so I looked into it, and it is a first edition, which apparently is worth some amount of money. Again, I forget, but I'm going to be flashing some prices on the screen. I also want to have like a running tally going, maybe like up here or something. Small and unobtrusive, just to keep myself honest, you know? Make sure my math is right. One Fan's Story, which is a Boston Red Sox thing. I'm not a sports person. Oh, you know what this one was? It's because it's signed by the guy, which is kind of strange because it's a book that a fan wrote about his experience with the Boston Red Sox, and he signed the book as a fan, and that's sought after. I don't know. Oftentimes, sports is a mystery to me. A Life, Marcel Proust, and I included this in this haul only to redeem myself. Last time I had a book by this guy, I called him Proust, but it's pronounced Marcel Proust. Although I'm sure this is somewhat valuable. Any kind of big tome like this that someone took the time to cover up, it's worth some amount of money. And it's just a beautiful book regardless. It's in pretty good condition. Dinosaurs, the Grand Tour. This was actually the first book I ever put on my eBay store. Not this edition, but the first edition, and it actually never sold. But my grandmother wanted to gift it to one of her students, so I was able to get rid of it that way. I am still shocked that nobody wanted that dinosaur book, but this one, for some reason, the second edition is a lot more popular than the first edition. It is expanded and updated, and full of dinosaurs, so what else could you ask for? House of Leaves. Love it, hate it. I love it, has a special place in my heart, and will always have a place on my eBay store. These books always go through the ringer. They always got like bent edges and soiled pages, which kind of goes with the theme of the book now that I think about it. And I guess it's big and heavy, so it's susceptible to damage. V for Vendetta, one of the few graphic novels I've ever read. I have to agree that it is a masterpiece. Love that story. Fairies, an art book, which I don't normally get from thrift stores because they just take up too much space and they don't fit nicely on a bookshelf, but I couldn't pass this one up. I love the artwork in it. It gives me this vintage vibe. Oh, here we go. That's my favorite kind of fairy right there. Borderline gnome. Looks very mischievous. Good stuff. I usually price these pretty low because I don't have a good way to store them, so I want them to sell. Oh, I found this at the Goodwill. It's a MrBeast bar. I guess they didn't sell very well, so they're at the Goodwill selling for 50 cents each. This one, unfortunately, named D's Nuts. And I'm gonna try it. see what it's like. It's unfortunate that MrBeast is kind of the spokesperson for YouTube. So anyone finding this candy bar is going to say, oh, this is the YouTube guy. And then he's going to associate D's nuts with YouTube, and the rest of us, oh well, what can you do? I'm not sure how old this is, but I mean, it tastes pretty good. Kind of has like a coffee undertone, which I don't really like. It's supposed to just be milk chocolate and peanut butter, but it's got nothing on Reese's. That's for sure. Also got some paraphernalia here. Costa Rica bookmark. Pretty high quality one. That'll go nice in the collection. Dream big, read. It's what I'm always telling people. I actually have a shirt that has the same phrase and the same kind of typography as well, but it's a raccoon in a race car, not a astronaut bat. And my favorite one, this old-fashioned Lord of the Rings bookmark. And you can tell it's old because it wants you to type in the AOL keyword Lord of the Rings. I have the one featuring Gandalf and the other hobbits. This one has the true hero of the trilogy in it, Samwise Gamgee. My favorite character, must be everyone's favorite character. I've been holding on to these for a while, hoping that I would find more of them. They're really tiny classics. And you know I love tiny hardcovers. These are tiny, tiny hardcovers. What do we got here? The Last of the Mohegans by James Fenimore Cooper. The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. I have never heard of that one before. And here's one I actually have read, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I was hoping to collect these, but they appear to be rare enough where I'm just going to get rid of them for space's sake. Do have to clean that one up a little bit. Another classic trio, Barnes & Noble, a little less extravagant here. But I usually pick these up when I find them in good condition. We got Grimm's Fairy Tales. Luckily here, through no planning of my own, I got three that actually make sense as a lot. Frankenstein. And one that I want to read this year, but I think I have a different edition, Dracula by Bram Stoker. A nice book bundle right there. I finally acquired this trilogy in its entirety in this pretty cool edition in my opinion. Annihilation, which is the best book of the trilogy by far, I have to say. Acceptance, which I barely limped through, and then Authority, which I did not get to. But content aside, beautifully designed books. I love these. Great addition to the store. Here's some books by Agatha Christie, which I've been acquiring for a little while, hoping to bundle them up. But there's actually an imposter in this lot, and it was hard to tell. But this one right here, this is not by Agatha Christie. It takes her detective character and uses it and has the same style as the other books, but is not her. It's not the first time someone else has used a very famous author to try and sell their own books, though. Finally got the full Giver Quartet, although the Messenger, the green one, is slightly smaller than the rest of them, which really grinds my gears, but I did finally get them all, so I am going to sell it like this, although I don't love it. Here's a nice little bundle here, Truman Capote, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and In Cold Blood. Both I've read. These are extra copies. Happy to sell this one because I can recommend both of these books. So when I see them going out, I get the sense that someone's in for a couple good reads, which I don't get with Agatha Christie or a lot of these classics, unfortunately, but which is another motivation to read more. Here's an Ernest Hemingway bundle, two of which I haven't read. This front one here, In Our Time, which I should probably add to my TBR. I don't know why I haven't done that. The Sun Also Rises, which that will probably be the next one that I read. You can see the bullfighting on the front, what I was missing in A Farewell to Arms, and the all-time classic, The Old Man and the Sea. I do get satisfaction sending these out as well, knowing that people will read some literary classics, but having just read Hemingway and knowing the depressing effect it had on me, I hope they're in the right mindset. Here's the first three novels of The Expanse, which I recently purged from my collection. I was trying to acquire full sets of these, but the books are too big and bulky, and I was acquiring like 5 number 3s and 4 number 1s, so I just decided to get rid of all of them. This one at least I can sell as a bundle of 3. The others I just sold piecemeal. which never feels that great. Brandon Sanderson novels, something I know much less about than the average person here on YouTube, but I know enough that these are the first 2 books in the Stormlight Archive series, so those can be bundled together. Massive paperbacks, oh my god. If I read this series, it'll probably satisfy my 4 million word goal. Lord of the Rings, can't go wrong. This one's nothing fancy, nothing extravagant, but everyone should own a copy of Lord of the Rings. If you know someone who reads and they haven't, then it makes a good gift, regardless of condition. Roald Dahl 3-pack. Roald Dahl? I don't think I've ever said that out loud. Roald Dahl 3-pack. These are all different editions, all different designs, but another one I've been collecting for a while. I was going to build up a huge lot and sell them, but I'm tired of looking at them, so 3's enough. Hopefully they sell. I don't know anything about these, but the Shopaholic books, which apparently is a massive series. These books were all, of course, next to each other on the shelf in really good condition, and I do have to appreciate the symmetry of design on them. Had no idea that there were so many out there. Think that'll sell well. The classic Ishiguro bundle, Never Let Me Go and The Remains of the Day. These are his 2 most popular by far. I know he's written a lot of books, but these are the ones you see most often. I think I've sold this specific bundle like 3 times now. I haven't read The Remains of the Day, but perhaps I should. I just actually found Clara and the Sun, his newest book. That's over there. I'm not selling that one. That one's going on my TBR. Warhammer 40K books. You can't go wrong. I usually try and bundle up these smaller ones. There is a massive series. I think there's like 100 books in it called the Horus Heresy. Not sure if those are included in that. They are not. One is actually a Warhammer Fantasy book, which is kind of rare, and the other is a Space Marines book. This one says Omnibus on it, which is always a good sign, especially for Warhammer books. And this is a standalone trade paperback Warhammer book, which is always another good sign. Extremely confident in these being able to sell on the store, as well as these, which are completely random contemporary romance novels. You can see them coming from a mile away. All the art is very similar. I'm not sure if they will sell individually or if I will bundle them up. This one I think I've seen in Barnes & Noble recently, so maybe that one will sell by itself. And this is, of course, the one that everybody knows. Although I've been trying to sell one for a while on my store and it hasn't gone. Maybe the pricing is wrong. I'm sure science fiction books look like this to romance readers, where you can see them from a mile away and they all look exactly the same and it's kind of all super generic. So I try not to judge too hard. This is not a book, but I'm going to count it as one. The Sonic Gems collection. It's one of these video games that takes a lot of old ones and compiles them into one volume, like an omnibus. I was holding on to it for a while because I needed to test it before I could sell it, and I went back home for Christmas and I could do it there. It is working and functional, and for some reason worth a good amount of money. Here are some bestsellers. The Midnight Library, which continues to sell, which I think has taken the #1 spot from A Little Life, because I haven't found that one in a while. Station 11, Emily St. John Mandel. It's funny how I like this book more after reading Sea of Tranquility and really liking that one. Doesn't make much sense. Quiet, I think I've sold this one like 3 times. I really can't resist a brand new looking book from a thrift store, even if it's only going to make me a couple dollars. Where the Crawdads Sing. I haven't sold this one in a while. I think it was super oversaturated after the movie came out on Netflix. That one might sit in my store for a while. Red Shirts by John Scalzi. This one sells well. Love this book. Happy to sell it. It's a good time. Night Circus. Very similar. Love this book. Happy to sell it. It's a good time. The Overstory. I should probably stop buying this one when I see it, but again, brand new. Beautiful book. I'm a sucker. Song of Achilles. Very popular book. Shiny book. And Stories of Your Life and Others. If you haven't read this, go to my eBay store right now and buy it. It'll be cheap. It's an amazing read, and this is a brand new book. Honestly, brand new. And it wouldn't be a proper 100 book restock haul without this series. I think it's been in every single one. His Dark Materials. Hopefully I'm holding this in the right orientation this time. I was actually looking this up on eBay to find the proper pricing for the last one I had, and I saw this one for sale, which was a great price, and it actually has the box set intact, although a little bit messed up. So I bought it, and the seller included a little bonus, a 1971 Larry Durker card. I imagine they have some kind of antique business and they had a big influx of cards, so they're like, oh, why don't I put these in here? It might make for a good bookmark. It's actually a little too thick for a bookmark, but I appreciated that. It's nice. And lastly, hopefully we're at 90 books, and this deluxe Paulo Coelho collection is going to round us out. I had no idea this guy had written this many books, and I do know how a lot of you feel about him from previous videos comments, and you know I love The Alchemist. That's as far as I've gone, though. I'd like to read another one of his, but this is just in too good of a condition not to put on my eBay store. So that's where it's going to go. The link will be in the description if you're interested. Oh, and before I forget, I got something in my P.O. box today, Sea of Rust. It's going straight to the top of my TBR. I got a really nice recommendation from Jedi Genks, who sent me this. It's the first book I've received through this channel, so it's pretty awesome. I read the blurb on the back. It looks right up my alley. I'm excited for that one. Some modern science fiction, which is kind of rare for me to read. And that's what I got for you today. If you'd like to support the channel, consider buying a book from my eBay store. It is pretty reasonably priced. Or subscribe, or just keep watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right, it is pretty good.